A horror game is a game that focuses on the survival of the character as the game tries to frighten players with either horror graphics or scary ambience. Horror games use fear and danger responses that generate adrenaline, an addictive neurotransmitter that engages the player's brain. Five Nights at Freddy's also pairs dopamine with the adrenaline rush in the form of surviving the various nights, creating a powerful neurochemical cocktail that makes sure the game stays fresh in the mind and enjoyable to play. What is FNAF? Five Nights at Freddy's is a point-and-click horror game released in 2014, focused on a player holding the night shift at a pizzeria. The location is haunted by a variety of animatronics that attempt to kill the player. Unlike many other games in the genre, FNAF creates new gameplay mechanics to create horror. It continues to be one of the most popular horror games, selling upwards of a million digital copies, generating a franchise soon to be complete with a movie. One of the main things that makes Five Nights at Freddy's so psychologically powerful are its gameplay mechanics, and more specifically, the gameplay mechanic of the doors. Five Nights at Freddy's is scary because it changes the player's presence in the game from active to reactive. In many horror games, you can move the character throughout a map, collect items, and craft weapons to fight a monster. This gives the player a sense of power that slowly degrades the horror they feel. Five Nights at Freddy's removes this capability by placing the character in an office and makes them unable to move. To survive, they must close the two side doors to protect them from the monsters outside, and to see, they must use a system of grating security cameras. To increase the pressure the player feels, FNAF adds a power bar. This limits the amount of time players can utilize the side doors or cameras without risking losing all their power, which results in an instant death condition. Five Nights at Freddy's is brilliant in this inversion of safety. To maximize your chances of survival, you must limit the time you spend on doors, cameras, and lights, all tools that make you feel safer but will ultimately lead to your death. The other significant gameplay mechanic already mentioned is the cameras. The images produced by each camera are all designed to disturb the player as much as possible and limit the amount of information the player receives. However, they are also vitally important to help track the various animatronics throughout the game. These cameras are also periodically overcome with static or blackouts, limiting the amount of time a player can spend monitoring the animatronics. The cameras closest to the side doors feature a blind spot, which means the player is directly open to attack when viewing them. This also helps increase the danger factor players will feel. Like every horror game, Five Nights at Freddy's features creepy character design to unnerve players. These characters include Freddy the bear, Chica the chicken, Foxy the fox, and Bonnie the rabbit. All of these characters are designed with two core concepts in mind that sets them apart from other horror characters: the uncanny valley effect and the nostalgia principle. Both of these are very important concepts that are used regularly in psychology to analyze people's reactions to various stimuli. The uncanny valley is an effect where non-human objects are given human characteristics. This is fairly common to see in things like advertising, movies, and games. However, the uncanny valley effect is the principle where something is given human characteristics while not being human enough. This is intuitively horrifying to people, and as a result scares players and makes the experience creepier. FNAF uses this by making the animatronics human enough to be recognized as anthropomorphic, while keeping them inhuman enough to disturb. The second concept used to increase horror is inverting nostalgia. Nostalgia is the emotional reaction people feel towards objects that they have in their childhood. It is usually positive and associated with feelings of wistfulness and youth. Many objects and ideas are romanticized about childhood, including locations of youthful fun like restaurants, parties, and toys. They seem positive and protective to us. Five Nights at Freddy's directly attacks our sense of nostalgia by perverting our memories of something good into something evil. Next, environment. All great horror games feature enticing, mysterious, or forbidding environments for players to explore. Five Nights at Freddy's uses grainy security camera graphics paired with monochrome structures with splashes of cheery childhood color, and foreboding newspaper clippings to tell us a subtle, horrifying story. This helps improve the amount of fear a player feels while maintaining dopamine levels, as they slowly uncover each night and discover new secrets. Otherworldly screeching, static, mechanical gears moving, screams, and silence all create a terrifying ambience that is more than effective at frightening players. While not unique to Five Nights at Freddy's in any regard, the game extensively uses jump scares, a tactic that helps make losing the game a frightening experience. This short event dramatically boosts the amount of adrenaline the player feels, which makes the experience stay stronger in the mind and scarier. Unfortunately, the repeated use of jump scares as the only real horrifying part of the game is slowly weakened by overexposure. Because of this, players will eventually develop an immunity to this aspect of the game, which drastically affects the amount of horror they feel. Eventually, with enough playtime, the game stops being scary and instead develops into an almost comedic experience. This is because of the phenomenon known as suspension of disbelief, where the viewer is able to forget physical reality and engage fully with the medium, loses post and loses potency with increasing involvement. As a result, the game has had a significant decline since it first came out in 2014. While Five Nights at Freddy's is scary as an experience, the game excels at psychologically hooking players on the story. In the simplest terms, and following a very small subsection of fandom dogma, a serial killer working at the pizzeria killed 5 children and stuffed them into animatronic suits to hide their bodies. Later, the game reveals the animatronics came to life and attacked a child at their birthday party, causing the restaurant to be closed down and moved to a new location. This is the place you are currently working at. This simple story is hidden in a variety of newspaper clippings already mentioned, and the periodic recorded phone calls the player receives at the start of each night. The phone calls also slowly reveal the phone guy, as dubbed by fans, is somehow involved with the murders and is killed on night 5. Part of the appeal of the story is how it is hidden throughout the game, often shown in short glitches or riddles. This engaging, addictive story mixed with its Easter egg setup encourages players to work together and collaborate to complete the mystery, and explore every nook and cranny of the game to increase playtime. Community aspects. This collaborative approach is what revolutionized FNAF in the indie game scene. The short, horror-orientated nature of the game lent itself to many YouTube playthroughs. Using the popularity of various YouTubers, mainly from Markiplier, who first produced this video in 2014, various younger people started to play it due to it allowing them to mimic their internet celebrities. Mimicking is a psychological phenomenon where people try to emulate people they hold in high esteem, such as celebrities quoting such as young people quoting various movie stars' favorite lines or dressing in accordance with someone else's fashion style. Five Nights at Freddy's was helped along by this mimicking phenomenon when young players sought to copy their favorite YouTubers. These players, the friends of these players probably then did the same, so the game spread virally through the gaming population, hitting groups like puzzle and story gamers that it didn't usually appeal to. Players then recorded their experiences, the story, and various theories, and uploaded them onto the internet. This frenzy, combined with the accessible nature of the game, $4.99 on Steam, available on Android, Apple, OS X, and Windows, allowed a community to quickly grow around the game. This community approach allowed social gamers an outlet, the cheap price helped validate the cost of the game, and the few hours a player could spend on it. Because of this, a variety of games followed after it, creating the franchise of 8 full games: Five Nights at Freddy's, Five Nights at Freddy's 2, Five Nights at Freddy's 3, Five Nights at Freddy's 4, Five Nights at Freddy's Sister Location, and various spin off titles. It also produced 4 novels, uncountable toys, and career defining opportunities for YouTubers, all of which helped spur on the spread of the game. What type of players does Five Nights at Freddy's appeal to? Five Nights at Freddy's has a market to a variety of play types, including socializers. To socializers, the game and its online forums allow players to connect and build their own personas and roleplay. Meanwhile, achievers find solace in Five Nights at Freddy's for its many unlockables known as plushies and stars, which are rewarded for surviving each night. Next, explorers. Finally, explorers can enjoy FNAF for the dark, elusive story and variety of creepy in-game glitches that they can pore over. Unlike many other horror games, killers have no outlet. This is because, as stated earlier, Five Nights at Freddy's forces the player to be reactive rather than active, something that is the opposite of killer psychological response. It also has no violent component that a killer can inflict on in-game enemies or other players. This may be the reason why FNAF has slowly died out during the rise of a variety of more popular first-person shooters, like Fortnite, PUBG, and horror games like Agony and Dying of the Light. In conclusion, Five Nights at Freddy's is an excellent example of a horror game using psychology to manipulate players. Whether it's gameplay mechanics that cripple player agency, disturbing aesthetics hinged on the uncanny valley and nostalgia principles, terrifying sound effects, and jump scares that hijack player dopamine and adrenaline centers, or even a flourishing community and popularity appeal of YouTubers, or even just the cheap price, Five Nights at Freddy's makes excellent use of psychology to hook players and continue to be one of the best selling horror games of all time.